Sorry, Rachel, I am like all forgetting how to operate things today. Um, so I do have there we go. Hopefully that's sharing the right screen. So Rachel, um, to be fair, Rachel, I only know about you what I hear from Alison, really. So I'm going to spotlight you in a minute. So people can find you on Instagram. That's what I could find out, is that you could be found on Instagram. Somehow it's lost the image I had there for you, but that's not too serious. Let me go back and
I
stop
think
the
what I
share
would
so
say
I can
about Rachel is she's very, very active, but she's probably invisible to most of us because the community in which she's very active is not does not overlap with ours particularly. So
yeah.
we can let her explain that a bit more.
Yeah, so please tell us a bit about yourself, Rachel, and the things that you're involved in.
So I'm Dr. Rachel Sara Lewis. The reason why Alison says that is because I'm usually the only face of this description in the room when we come to most things. So home education or education in general, for me, I was home educated. I am now an adult home educating, and I have 6 children.
Fantastic.
The communities that I overlap with are the Hasidic Jewish community in which I was raised, but then also the Muslim community, which I converted into at the age of 15.
Oh, interesting, very interesting. So that's you've got a little bit of an insight into quite a few
So we're the
things
isolated
here.
communities, the communities that, in my opinion, this bill is meant to focus on, but doesn't explicitly want to say that it's focusing on.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you've been very vocal when you've been given the opportunity. I have had the pleasure of being in a few meetings where you were very vocal, and thank you for that. So how did you did you start home educating because you'd been home educated yourself?
No, actually. Originally I was not going to home educate. I had the initial idea that my children were going to go to independent schools. They were going to be independently educated all the way through from 4 to 18, and I was going to be on the other side of the classroom because that's what I originally trained to do, was
Mhm.
to become a teacher. Because looking at the education system in general, especially in inner cities, not many of the students in comprehensive schools look like me. So the teachers don't look like me, but the students do. So that was my initial idea about how I was going into education. How I came to home education was actually twofold. My nephew, who I adopted, was not doing very well in school. I was originally told I was not able to have biological children. So um when my yeah, it's obviously a lie. When my brother's children needed taking in, my youngest nephew said he wanted to live with Mimi, and I am Mimi. So I took him in, and he was not doing particularly well in school. He was dealing with a lot of issues, but I knew automatically he was on the spectrum. Um, so I said, do you know what? That's not going to work for him. But he wanted to try secondary school, secondary education. Sent him in. Um, he had been educated at home for a long time. Because he was on the spectrum, he had superpowers. We know kids on the spectrum are not what people say they are. Um, High functioning, high flyer. His teacher said to him, if you believe you know best because you've been at home all this time, which was supposed to have been a slur, go home. He's on the spectrum. He did. He left school premises and he went home. That was the first thing. So I needed to take him out. Safeguarding issues. You can't tell a child who's on the spectrum, go home. He's going to go home. He crossed several main roads, came straight home, was sitting on doorstep. Neighbor phoned me at school to tell me, I was teaching in a classroom at the time, that I need to come home because my son is sitting on the doorstep. School hadn't phoned me because they hadn't realized he was missing. How do you lose a 6 foot 11-year-old? How is that
That's
possible?
yeah.
So they got what was coming to them from me. They were not happy about that.
Oh
Second
dear.
fold is, by the time he was old enough to be in secondary school, I already had a tiny one. This is when I met Alison.
Okay.
My tiny one was about 3. She was in the University of Leeds nursery. because I had gone back to finish my PhD. I took her to an induction day at our local primary school. She walked in, she did an hour. She walked back out and she went, 4-year-olds are stupid. I'm not going back there again. She said, the teacher tried to teach me my alphabet. When I told her I could read, she told me I was lying. I'm not going back there again. I had no choice. Home ed was, because it was on my radar, it was going to be something we did. So by default, she just stayed at home. She never went back. She never had a full application put in. She was home ed all the way through. She is now 16. I have another one who's 12, another one who's nearly 10, another one who's just turned 8, one who's going to be 4 next year, and a 5, nearly 6-month-old baby. So obviously someone lied when they told me I couldn't have children.
It's wonderful when that happens. I do love that. I think, the human body is a mysterious thing.
Very interesting thing. But I'm
Yeah.
also from a large family. I'm the youngest of 10, and we were all home ed. A lot to do with my brother, my eldest brother, who did not take very well to school. My mum said, you know what? She was home ed, come home. And everybody stayed at home. So everybody had the option to be at home. So by default, home ed is very rife within our family.
So is this right, Rachel? Are you a third generation home educator? You're not even second generation, you're third generation.
Because
That's
my mum moved here. And when my mum moved here, it was quite, I'd like to say the climate of racism has got better, but it really hasn't. So my mum had a lot to deal with. She was a mixed race Hasidic Jew. And then also being a woman and being very vocal was not a good combination for the 60s, 70s in school. So my grandma was like, oh, do you know what? Forget it, I can do the job. So she did it, and everybody else did it since.
So Rachel, I want to, you've also shown a keen interest in what is happening in the education system, and even you've made some references as you've been speaking. What what is we're facing a situation at the moment where we don't feel heard as parents and as home educators. We don't feel heard. What do you think the government could be doing differently?
Honestly, I don't think it's in the government's best interest to do anything differently.
I tend to agree, yeah.
So we could want them to do differently, but they're not really going to do differently because they need that army of supposed middle class.
Yeah.
And to have we can look at exam results from this year alone. The failure rate's ridiculous. So those children are having to resit examinations, and some of those kids are just not fit for exams. It's not for everybody. We can't have a one size fits all, but we are being made to have a one size fits all, which doesn't fit anybody. And then the policy of no child left behind, they had to kick that out because it was sort of every child was being left behind.
Yeah, Rachel, I mean, the other thing is, of course, what Naomi Fisher was saying just before you came in, that, of course, the exam system is actually set up to automatically fail a third in every exam.
Yeah, most
because
definitely.
so the idea that we can improve exam results or get more passes is just a fool's errand.
It is most definitely. And it's a fool's errand on the basis that if you look at the criteria for hitting foundation or higher, when you are sitting your core exams, it's the idea that quite a lot of children who are capable of the higher paper are not given that opportunity. And they're not given that opportunity. I'm dealing with a child at the moment, so I tutor privately also to help children in my own community pass exams. And a child decided that she wanted to go and study religiously abroad, and she's come back. She is perfectly capable of sitting the higher paper. She is more than capable of acing every paper that's put in front of her. But the school that she has now been allocated does not have class capacity for her to sit the higher paper. So she's being forced to sit foundation. That does a problem for morale. And once you break morale at 15, 16, you cannot remake it.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I have, we see education systems in other countries, and some where it's working better than others, but somehow, the government doesn't seem too interested in seeing what is actually working in other countries. And my own experience of school was we were required to generally stay in school till we were 18. There was no exam at 16 years and then choices.
Mm.
And one of the things that I think is that particularly boys, they tend to only kind of mature at that stage, almost where they're kicking them out now,
Yes.
and actually get their head in the game and think, oh, actually, I think I want to get serious about this now. And by that stage, it's too late for them to maybe, recover.
Mhm. But the education system that is being sat at the moment is geared towards girls anyway.
Mm, mm, yeah,
We had the problem with many years ago, it was a lot of coursework that was also geared towards females. Boys are not being considered in this equation at all. Because having taught boys and girls in my own household, let alone outside of my household, boys school in that term or educate very differently to girls.
yeah,
We phased out single sex education.
yeah,
We phased out everything that was working in order to opt for a model that isn't working.
yeah, yeah. And these little boys are sitting at their desks reluctantly with their brains clearly out on
Oh, yes.
in the fields
Oh, yes,
and outdoors.
definitely.
Yeah.
So we've had the idea where my son, who is now 9, nearly 10, has spent most of his time outside restoring a bicycle
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks. But when I bring him inside and I say to him, okay, fine, you've done all of that, let's get some paperwork down. It will take hours, hours for
Yeah.
him to write anything down. But if I say to him, how am I going to de-rust the chain on a bicycle? It's automatic. They need to be more hands-on with boys, and we
Yeah.
also don't have enough male teachers in schools.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not teaching the subjects that they need to be learning either. We're not giving them
We're not teaching
opportunity
anything.
to,
We're not really teaching anything.
and not much
Because
of use.
there's a lot of my students, even the ones that are in school that I teach privately, and they say to me, okay, fine, this is algebra. When am I ever going to use this?
Yeah. And my own
Never.
approach in home educating my own children was, if I could not answer that question,
I won't
why
teach
am
it.
I doing this? Then
Yeah,
why am I,
exactly.
there needs to be a reason behind everything that children can buy into.
And that's the whole thing is
Yeah.
I'm very honest and open with my own teaching, with my own
Mm.
students, but then also with my own children. You are
Yeah.
never going to use this.
Yeah. And children see right through it. They,
Yeah, they do.
that's why they call BS on it, really, because and I think they disengage for that reason, because it's not of use to them.
But then the whole thing is the pandemic highlighted all of
Yeah.
that, especially for
Yeah.
teenagers
Yeah.
now. There's no, for my generation, it was go to school or get a great education, go on to university, and you're guaranteed a position in some sort of corporate law firm, or you are going to become a doctor, or you will definitely
Yeah.
become a teacher.
So,
That does not exist for them anymore. That linear sort of idea is
yeah.
highlighted because they saw schools shut down, they saw hospitals locked down, they saw if their parents were doctors, their parents had to leave home
Yeah.
essentially to do their job. Law was shut down. There was no law and
Yeah.
order in the world. And it's sort of the idea that, okay, fine, you bring in martial law, that is an automatic idea to tell a child that nothing else is going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when it suits, we can change these things. I wanted to finish off on a more positive note.
Okay.
Could you perhaps just share, obviously you're engaged in the Muslim community. What are you seeing sort of positively happening in respect of home education in the Muslim community? I know certainly in my area we have quite a thriving community.
I think the Muslim community as themselves are going through what we call an enlightenment.
Mm,
And that enlightenment has pushed home education through the roof.
wonderful.
Unfortunately, I think we are the reason for this bill. I honestly
Yeah, I
think
mean,
we are the reason for this bill. Not on the basis that it was a notion of, yes, these people now want a bit more freedom, they're going to do whatever. It's our parents were very much block voters. If you
mm,
went into a mosque and had a conversation with the men of the community and said, vote Labour, they did. Because the Imam said, the leader of the community said, vote Labour.
mm,
My generation, the ones who were raised in this world, not coming as immigrants, are very much just as much British as they are where
yeah,
have said, but Labour doesn't do anything for me. I went through university, it's not doing anything for me.
yeah,
Conservatives don't care about me. Nobody cares about me. So I'm going to care about myself. And since the community is a younger community of millennial parents, coming downwards, they are saying, do you know what, we can work around this. I work 50% online, so if my husband works the other 50% online, we're going to flip and the kids are going to be home ed. Families where you would not expect home ed to have been even a conversation
Yeah.
is now, I'm getting conversations or people contacting me, child's 2,
Yeah.
3, 4 years old, and they're like, we're not thinking school at all. We're not thinking Islamic school. We're not thinking mainstream school. We're not thinking private school. We are keeping our kids at home. What clubs are in our area?
Yeah.
We have WhatsApp databases. We have all sorts. But then it's also the idea that quite a lot of the community that I come from are now not staying here. They're global families now. So they are saying, okay, fine. My children, I don't speak my indigenous language, but my kids will. And they will pack up for 6 months and leave.
Yeah.
And because they are educated in the way that they are, they can work however they want to work. And that means that they're pushing their work online, and the kids are living in Ghana
Yeah.
for 6 months, Pakistan
Yeah.
for 6 months, and then they come back. And
Yeah.
grandparents are old enough that the grandparents have gone back home. So they're going with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, they've discovered a new way of doing things and unlocked a whole
Yeah,
other world, haven't they? Rachel, I'm going to have to wrap it up now with you
no
because we've
problem.
got Anne waiting in the wings to take our next slot.